dive? Okay, let's do it.
Let's start with transcendent moments in your life. I love transcendent moments because they can be good or bad, and my opinion is that moments in our life are all neutral regardless. If it's bad, then it's a place of learning and growing. It's an experience that can empower you, or you can become victim to it. So either a quote unquote bad experience or a quote unquote amazing experience where you felt like you arrived.
It's like a real-time expansive experience, like something that I mean, the first thing that popped to mind was actually when I had like completely felt like I hit a wall physically, mentally, and emotionally, spiritually. Every plane that I could tap into, I felt like I had completely hit a wall. I think this was in 2015. Like actually hit a wall. Like I was like dying. I had been working so hard. I'm not trying to be I wasn't like feeling like a victim. It's just like at all. It's just like when you go into those rabbit holes of creative immersion, financial difficulty, being a nomad, partying too much for those it was like a work hard, play hard period of years to the grind in New York, and like festival to festival, and like everything was magical and beautiful, but like eventually after this one event at the Savannah Film Festival in 2015, after a week of these parties and speaking on panels, and it was like literally I felt my whole being just like deflate. I thought I was going to crawl into a hole and never, ever, ever come out because I was just exhausted. And I decided to go onto Google and like put in 12 words in the Google search box that just were like coming up for me, and not to ask anyone advice or guidance or anything. And these words led me to a place called Pachamama in Costa Rica, which is basically a kind of like a commune almost. I won't get into too much of what that is, but I went for a week of like this super deep body cleanse, which ended up also cleansing the mental and the emotional. And I was like reborn, like literally reborn. And from that experience, my diet changed, my lifestyle changed, my pacing of the way I worked changed. It was like really important. It became like a very clear message that these pauses, so to speak, I didn't plan to talk about that, but that's like kind of where we are right now as a collective, are really important to growth, really important to expansion, really important to our organs, our mind, our spirit, our everything. And so that was 1 week, and I had an incredibly profound experience. It had a big impact on me. Hopefully that was a good answer to your question.
Yeah, did you do cacao there the first time?
Was that my first cacao experience?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I love that you bring that into your events.
Yeah, I mean, cacao is a plant medicine when it's ceremonial grade, and comes from Mayan culture, pre-coffee. Very much a ritual, very much about setting intention and heart opening, and sharing dreams. And on the physiological, it also promotes circulation and energetic flow. So it's got a lot of healing properties as much as it does have the ability to help with manifestation. And so, yeah, it's been really fun to bring those into film stuff, art stuff.
Yeah.
It's nice because you get a very high vibration from the cacao. So it's nice to kind of set the tone that way and then go in to watch a film rather than alcohol, which like is also totally fine, but different.
Yeah.
It tweaks the vibe in a different way. So yeah, I've been playing around with different stuff. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And your a big takeaway with that was having an awareness. And I love what you said about not um, reaching out for advice. Like you were listening to spirit, you were listening to your intuition, and outside of Google, you didn't reach out for advice. And I love that, because so often we uh, are seeking for other people to give us an answer that we know, right? We know intuitively
Mm-hmm.
what the answer is, and we just want someone to 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 that's why I love to listen, because that person is intuitively going to get to their own answer ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
and or ask evoking questions. And sometimes people just need to hear, to be heard, to talk and be heard. And so you listen to that internal guidance saying, I don't want advice. I know what the truth is. I just get to look inside and discover it. And I think that that's really important, because so often in our narratives and filmmaking and our careers, we look for advice. We look for someone to, coach is one thing and a mentor is one thing. You certainly have those in your life. But we look outside in the entertainment industry to give us something, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
knowing intuitively what we have to offer and giving that. And
This is so relevant,
yeah,
yo. My two producing partners are actually on this chat, like, and we've been talking a lot about humanizing the icon and how we look to this sort of these iconic figures, whether religious or Hollywood, to sort of give us our crutch and our leadership. So there's a balance. There's a balance, but to understand there's the icon within, too. So it's that's a different
absolutely.
subject, but like that was so right on, like what we've been talking about with my team on the side. So
Yeah, yes. And the thing that we love about gods and how we celebrate icons is
it's the chills.
they are they are
Mm.
we're a mirror of them. They are a mirror of us. I mean, look, if you look at all the Greek gods, they're superhuman, right? They all have human, they have jealousy, they have all of these things. In the Old Testament, God has all those human qualities too, right? God, we are created in God's image.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, these icons that we celebrate or put up on the pedestal, they're just a mirror image of our best selves in many ways, or our most lighted self, and
Mm-hmm.
what we aspire to be. And if we understand that internally, we have that, it's just a mirror of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, when we're those people that we celebrate are literally um, just mirrors of ourselves. The reason why we admire them is because they are parts of them are a great part of us. And when people,
And oh,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go
I
ahead.
just got excited. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
Um, and the icon is perhaps not the person. That's an image too. That's a projection too. So we have the icon up on the pedestal, but the human behind the icon is actually just figuring it out too, is going through
Mm-hmm.
their own turmoil, inner and outer. And it's a little dangerous a bit sometimes to idolize, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
noticing a lot of people that are seen as icons today expressing in different ways their desire to be taken off the pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jim Carrey is a perfect example, and talking about Jim Carrey's not real. That's the role he's been playing his whole life. And
Mm-hmm.
we're all playing roles in our kind of constructed personality that sort of happens, through conditioning. Um, Forming identity. I mean, that's like, again, a topic that I'm just so fascinated with.
Yeah, yeah. Martine says God is inside us, and yeah, that is truth. That is love. That is all inside of us.
It's
And
all everything.
I don't want to get on a big
I
religious
know. No,
thing. However,
spiritual.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, but I do want to address, just quickly, that my perspective of religion and the form it quite often takes, in kind of the bastardized form or whatever, is that we're looking outside of ourselves for an answer. We're looking outside ourselves for a leader. We're looking outside so that we don't have to be responsible. Right. And when we look for God inside of ourselves, then not only will we find the truth, we find the answer, we also find our creativity, because God created us so we could create. But what people look toward religion to do is give a justification or an answer for something that they don't want to be responsible for. Right. How can I be responsible for coronavirus? How can I be responsible for, these bad things that happen in my life? And until we see how we are source, I'm not gonna go off in that direction, but
Are you sure? I think
I don't
you're being
know.
pulled there.
I know.
What like, do you want to go down that rabbit hole, or do you want to?
Let's just address it quickly. Yeah, because it's coming up. And so when and this is tough, because this responsibility holds us accountable. And when we acknowledge that we are source for any event, then we get to look at ourselves and say, how am I responsible for that? And this is really tough, especially, if you're not used to doing it. I mean, I love it because I have more control when I go, I'm responsible, because, I'm responsible for war. I'm responsible for war because I don't give in generosity, right? I'm responsible for war because in my past I have held anger inside of me, or resentment inside of me, or felt like I needed to have ownership around something.
So you're talking like what I would call is like your vibration, because if you're operating at like a lower frequency, which is what they're even talking about in science now, then you're actually contributing negatively to the collective.
Yeah.
So it's not like a direct, people look for those direct links. Like, how would you be responsible for war? But it's just taking ownership in the part in which we co-create, all of our realities, and what are we doing to raise the collective to where we can see that, like, oh, we are part of a whole ecosystem. We are part of a whole unified field. And if we all operate from fear or anger or these so-called lower frequencies, just in the way you walk, even if you're alone, if it's with anger and fear and panic, and that's literally the vibration that's reverberating into the ether from your vessel, and that is contributing to the collective fear. That doesn't mean that you don't honor your fear and look at that and work to transmute or release or whatever you need to do. It's a great like reminder. It's not to neglect it, but to stay in that and to move through the world in that way is your responsibility to the collective. As much as yourself. So just to like elaborate on what you're saying, because I am with you.
And I love all that. Yes, I'm aligned, and you've enrolled me. Yes.
No, I'm not enrolling you. It's why we're already friends.
So inside of that, so my solution, two things. One you addressed, which is acknowledge my feeling of jealousy, acknowledge my feeling of pain or of hurt, of resentment. So, okay, I acknowledge that. What's underneath that, which is my, when I'm talking about generosity, this need to protect that is mine, defend myself in fairness. This stems from my brother always having, like having to fight for my fair share, right? That's where it comes from. Like, that's one of the places. And so I can acknowledge not only the feeling, and then I can acknowledge what's underneath that, why I feel that way. And then I get to shift into a way of being that is offering generosity unconditional with no collateral, right? Or I can shift into a higher vibration of joy. We have that choice, right? So that's the solution. That's what I do when I'm in those places. I acknowledge it, and then I shift my vibration, my way of being.
Yeah, it reminds me, I was watching the Ram Dass documentary the other night called Becoming Nobody, which is already such a powerful title, because instead of becoming somebody, which we're all trying to be somebody, it's actually about becoming nobody, which is like stripping the masks off into this kind of more authentic way of being.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, he says, don't get confused and think you have the right to be angry, which he got from his guru, right? Which was like, it's such a loaded statement. Because I personally, as Jennifer, cannot be someone to ever tell anyone that they don't have the right to be angry. I would never do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is entitled to their feelings
on
a certain plane. But there's another plane where it's like, oh, that's ego. I have the right. And it's like, you could just let the anger come up and pass away. But this sort of righteous, sense of like, I have the right, then gives us permission to act on those feelings. And acting on those feelings is where we get into trouble,
And we have the choice to act on those feelings in a way. So anger can cause, I mean, you can't tell me Martin Luther King wasn't angry at times. And what he did, the actions that he took with that anger were, epic, spreading love and speech. And like, that's how he took anger and put it into something good. So certainly acknowledging our anger, those are human things. We just get to embrace it, acknowledge it, and then, shift. Agreed.
And also the sentiment of backstory, like attaching to narrative, needing to know why. We're in this like pop psychology culture of, I need to go back into the trauma, and this was in the Ram Dass thing, and it just resonated. Again, I haven't intellectualized it. It's not like something I would get into so much right now, but it was like, what if you just let it all go?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And now what do you do with that? Now, how do you shift your way of being into to shifting so that whatever caused you anger, you don't get to be that, you get to create something that's not in the same platform, right? The same.
It can be viewed as passion.
Yeah.
It can be, just motivation.
Yeah. And generosity is like that. If you're in generosity, you're not going to be angry about it because you did that work for the good of something, right? Mm-hmm. And you did it out of generosity, not because you were expecting something in return. Generosity is giving unconditionally, without collateral, without you owe me, etc. And then when I feel like I'm keeping score, or I did the dishes 7 times, right? So somebody gets to do them now, right? No, I just get to do it an 8th time, and it's just, and then suddenly somebody else comes back around and supports me in something else, right? So that's the ebb and flow of generosity. And then suddenly we're all living in abundance. But when I go, you owe me, it stops the movement, it stops the flow. Mm-hmm. And you're not paying attention to where you're supported in other arenas. So somebody's coming into giving me generosity while I'm giving someone else generosity. Mm-hmm. And when we hoard, when we are takers and we hoard, then that constricts and restricts mm-hmm. the flow of generosity too. Tom Artavandi's on. What's up, buddy? Speaking of horror films, I did Avenged with that guy. He's amazing.
Hi, Tom.
He's got a really great show too. What's the name of your show, Tom? Throw it up there. And he does it with Susan Toro. You would love her. Oh, I should introduce you to them. She's great. Okay, so that's beautiful. Are you complete on that one? Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. I mean, it's a spiral. So actually, you can keep going, but we don't have to. I mean, the next kind of layer of it is, okay, well, if you're expressing generosity in order to get into the abundance flow, is that also looking for results? So we can leave it there in the sense of, how do you purify your intentions? How do you really purify your intentions is something to kind of raise as a question, and we can, move on, because it's a great one.
Let's apply it. Let's put you on set for a second. So you're directing, producing, and you wrote. Mm-hmm. Okay. And
what are my tools for keeping like a harmonious set? Or
your way of being, because if you're at the helm of that flows down, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you encourage that harmonious set? How do you encourage respect? How do you encourage that?
I mean, for me, vibe is the most important thing. So sometimes it's group meditation, a very strict rule of like not bringing any production office drama onto the set. And my producers were super respectful. Like if somebody even started to walk onto the set as if they were stressed out, I asked them very nicely to just like, please go out, consider the set like a vacation.
Mm,
So the creative team would not, feel that. And actually my producers ended up being so thrilled. They're like, yeah, when we need a vacation, we go to set now. Like leave the production office, go to set. Stressful phone calls, everything else is like happening very, very, very far away. And just doing my best to be grounded and nice. Not to say that that's 100%, but if not, then there's definitely an apology. And I can honestly say that my sets are a lot of fun,
yeah,
even with
I
all the hardship of all this back of the house stuff going on. They're magical because whether you're a production assistant, an actor, caterer, producer, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Everyone is totally a piece of the pie, totally respected. Um,
and that energy,
it takes an army,
and yeah, and that energy is woven into the fabric of the film.
It's the alchemy. I call it the invisible alchemy.
Alchemy, yeah, it's so
People
true.
will see the film and say like, we can see how much fun you guys were having, we can see how connected you were. And also rehearsals, which a lot of films don't do, rehearsals, um, dinners,
Hmm.
hanging out, deep conversations weeks before shooting,
Yeah,
vision boards, brainstorming, connecting, just as people.
yeah. I can't wait for us to create a project together and we get to generate that kind of artistic art and love and flow. And one other thing, the second part of that is, as a leader, receiving reviews and direct and indirect feedback and criticism or rejection. What that has given me, the gift of that, is that I can take feedback from anybody. I can take rejection from anybody. I can be in a place of utilizing that experience as that feedback as a result. So I get to shift my way of being to promote another,
Mm-hmm.
another outcome. So uh, being a leader on set, uh, uh, and a leader, one of my favorite descriptions or leadership distinctions is that I get to be uh, open to feedback in a way that's either verbal or this is working, this isn't working. And I get to not have an ego about it and move and shift so that people feel comfortable offering opinions and offering their creative input. And I love that process, that collaborative and contributive uh, philosophy on a set. And I think it's essential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mary Pickford story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right. And I just threw that out as we got to watch it. We got to see it. I want to see it, the most updated version. When do we get to see that?
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Hopefully 2020. Yeah.
Yay. Okay,
It's been
cool.
such a long journey. It's like, might as well finish strong, Don't sell that vision short, to all the artists out there. Honor your vision till the bitter
Yeah.
end.
Well,
Yeah.
that kind of takes me into the next
And
question really
people,
quick.
honestly, it's not just specific to art. You should honor your life vision, um, regardless of how you spend your time or how you make your money, or you should really do that.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That creativity. Quickly. So, what do you do for yourself to inspire inspiration, creativity, motivation? Just give some quick, to dos for yourself.
I am always inspired. I have to calm down sometimes, more
Okay.
more that direction. But to get focused, which is probably more my challenge sometimes when I am so supercharged with inspiration. And it works in all ways, you know, meditation is really a big thing for me. Um, and also just being present in the moment as best as
Hmm.
possible, like just honoring uh, each moment as its own life experience,
Yeah.
trying to play with the psyche in days where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to think ahead, I'm not going to think behind, I'm going to do my best to be, or if I catch myself doing that, just use, whether it's like using the breath or using a song or whatever it is, like to really experience life fully, you actually do have to be present. um
Because life is
anxiety
happening out here.
Anxiety and depression really come from being in the past and the future a lot of the time. So if I want to be in a creative flow, I have to remember presence is power, because
Yeah.
the unfolding is in the moment. The
Yeah.
unfolding is just right now. So
Yeah.
that's what
My
the, you know,
my friend
yeah.
Andres Berrientos was on here. He was the acting coach and translator on our set from Race of the Serpent.
Oh,
I don't know
yay.
if he's
That's
still on there.
amazing.
If you're on
Yeah.
there, Andres, what's up, buddy?
Hi,
Um,
Andres.
I should get you on here sometime. You should jump onto our call at some point, or maybe next time.
Yeah.
He's a
Too much
beautiful,
technology.
right?
Yeah.
We're gonna master this. Andres is a beautiful creature. He's passionate. I mean, he's Colombian, so you know he's just got that thing about him. He's creative. He's an amazing human being. I spent the better part of my 2 months in the Amazon hanging out with him. Um, uh,
The
and
shaman that I love a lot, that I've sat in ceremony with, does her work in Colombia. I don't know
yeah,
exactly where, but it's beautiful.
yeah. Yeah, Colombia is a beautiful, beautiful country, and the people are amazing. They're incredible
Mm-hmm,
people.
mm-hmm,
We've talked about this a little bit, living in the past, and we just kind of segued
mm-hmm.
into it. You know, when we're living in our past, we get to admit, like, it doesn't serve us to avoid uh, anything in the past. We get to have clearing energy around any kind of resentment or whatever. We get to address it, have an admittance around it, because that empowers us, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
makes us unique. If we're in the Maslow's pyramid and we look at human condition in that Maslow's pyramid, we are all the same, right? All of our needs are pretty much the same as we rise on that pyramid level. However, the thing that makes us different and unique is our past life or our past experience, right? And the thing that
Mm-hmm.
makes me different, a different kind of artist, is because of the experiences that I've had leading up to, and if we don't admit it, or we don't bring that into our awareness, then we're blocked, we're hiding something. At least that's my experience, and that's kind of one
Mm-hmm.
of the things that I teach. And when we're moving forward and being present, like you said, which is great, um, life is happening in real time. It's happening outside of ourselves, right? Our minds only understand a
Mm-hmm.
perspective of the past, a perspective of the past, a perspective of the future, and those aren't truths, right? Being in the present moment, life is happening in real time out here. I mean, we can get into the quantum multiple, it's not linear, and the only thing that is true is that present moment,
Yeah.
right? We were talking earlier about being present, right?
Okay. Right.
And we can either be right about our story, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I can either be right about or be victim to my story, or I
Okay.
can be right about my vision, right? I can be right about what I
When you
get to
say
create.
right, what do you mean?
So
Like
when
fate,
we're
like you can be looking in one of those directions, or you can be right as in right or wrong. I don't.
so I'm not a fan of right and wrong. So let me just
Yeah.
clarify
Okay.
that, right? So what I prefer using, okay, this is working and this isn't working, right? So if if I am held victimized by my
Mhm.
story,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? If I'm living in the past of this always happens to me, so I'm not going to risk being in a loving relationship, or this always
Mhm.
happens to me, so I'm not going to risk doing another film thing,
Right.
right?
Okay. So if you're victim of the past, uh-huh.
Right. And you're being right about that story. You know what I
Right.
mean?
You
So
mean like
being right,
attached, you mean attached to it. Okay. I got
yes.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
And while I don't agree with the concepts of right and wrong, however, being right about something
Mhm.
is ego.
Yeah, and it's a way of just like attaching to it and being certain that that is the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we are quote unquote vision oriented and we are committed to being in that vision, right? I'm
Mhm.
committed to creating this in the world. I'm committed to creating this project. I'm committed to being this person.
Mhm.
That is something that we can create. And yeah, the word right doesn't really work in that. However, the concept of I'm either going to be victim and in this story and be right about it, or I'm
Mhm.
going to be convinced and committed to this vision and be able to be flexible and renegotiate so that ultimately I get to that vision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically the way that I see it is that being, in living in the future and living in the past, I see both as like very sticky, um, get yourself in trouble scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're attached to the future, we get anxious that we're not doing enough, or how do we get there, and we're still not being present.
Right.
So to also agree to your point that having vision is vital to being motivated and inspired. So what I believe in is like knowing your vision, continuing to plant those seeds, like set those intentions, whether it's through meditation, journaling, conversation with friends in a lighthearted way, whatever it is for you that isn't stressful. And
Yeah.
then you let it go.
Totally let it
Then
go.
you just let it go, so then you're able to be in the present, and you can then just commit to the moment and commit to the unfolding, and you don't need to be obsessing about what your vision is. You have to trust that it's there. It's been planted. The universe is like a garden. You plant seeds, and you don't stand over a garden and try to watch and obsess about the seeds growing. You'll kill them. You
Yeah.
actually just visit them from time to time and water them here and there, but you have to trust that it's all there. Your
Yeah.
subconscious is doing the work. Everything is happening. So the best commitment to self is to actually be present. That doesn't mean I embody uh, anywhere near this as much as I would want to. If that's a sentence that doesn't make sense, but you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I know and I work on.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, look, 2006, I was like, I'm going to be at the Oscars by 2015. And I had no way in hell, like, there was no way that I could ever have imagined how I was going to do that. I had a vision. I also had a vision of traveling the world. I had a vision of working with indigenous cultures, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
trusted that. And then what was that?
Sage. It
I
just
love it.
smells so good. Yeah.
And so I trusted that. And my way of being present and working hard and diving into scripts and diving into material that would those were all mechanisms that were leading me in that direction,
Yeah,
right?
but it's like you're also like you're not working on those things in order to get to the Oscar.
Right.
You're working on
Exactly.
those things because you genuinely want to be working on those things.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've planted the seed that you would like to be in that position. And
Yeah.
by committing yourself to the moment
Yeah.
really fully, you landed in that position.
Yeah.
Because if you don't commit to the present, you'll take a lot of windy roads to get places, which is so full of lessons and like
Mm-hmm.
incredible. But if you want a more direct path and expedited path in terms of working with the law of attraction, the present is your best friend. I
Totally.
know it. I know it.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And being, being in your vision and uh, a, being with integrity, being powerful, being responsible, all of those things are ways of being that will create and get you to that end result. Absolutely. We are in line.
Yeah. Hell
Okay.
yeah.
So here's a fun question. So, You get to answer one of the three of these.
Give it to me.
Okay. Answer one of the following, and I call this section fucking actors. Okay? Because it's actually, with the squiggly lines, and so
hurry, I don't want to get cut off.
Okay,
We're gonna leave people in suspense.
So three questions that you can answer from. What famous actor have you slept with? Mm-hmm. What famous actor would you like to sleep with? Or
what's the third one? Like what behaviors annoy me that industry professionals do?
Yes.
Okay.
This is lesson.
I guess I don't like smoke and mirrors. So I don't like bullshit. Mm-hmm. I don't like I shouldn't even say I don't like, because
it's not working. Those things don't work. That's a really good way.
I actually can see through it a lot, and it's kind of funny, but it's an interesting practice that has become part of the human, collective. We all do to some degree, but our industry, I think, has it as like a heightened, or at least it feels that way, because it's such there's a lot of like vanity, and I just think it's like blowing smoke, pretending like there's excitement around something, and there's really not.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Can't we just be real?
Yeah. Totally.
And that applies again across the board, but as we're sitting here in quarantine, I think a lot of us are kind of examining what authenticity means to us. So I'm not mad at anyone. I'm not hating on anyone.
No. So I think I'm going to rephrase that question to, what do you feel like is, and you don't have to answer this because you just did, but what do you feel like is not working in the industry, and what do you feel like is working in the industry? And that's how I'm going to rephrase that question from now on. And yeah, I mean, it's not about like getting mad. It's not about like any of that. It's just about like what's working. How can we move to improve?
It's just a waste of energy, but it's such old programming, and also like gratuitous violence, and telling stories that are not contributing to the elevation of humanity. Is something that I have like a fundamental issue with. So, but that's okay, because we're here to improve on the content that we're putting out into the world.
All right.
Yeah.
You mentioned authenticity. For me, authenticity, and this is in acting, this is in life in general. Authenticity is when I'm vulnerable, and the inside of what I'm experiencing is matching the outside of what I'm showing. Right? So if I'm in turmoil, I get to say, hey, you know what? I'm in turmoil right now. I'm admitting it. I get to address it, and then I get to shift. And so it's reflective. Like the inside is matching the outside. That, and I'm making a commitment to you and I feel like when we do this, that we begin to be source for it, and we begin to create it when we make a commitment. I'm committed to being generous in the world. I'm committed to being a source for love and abundance, and I get to shift from moment to moment to create that in the world. Anything in line with that, or anything that you want to say just to wrap us up today?
Thank you for opening up this conversation. And yeah, it's great to set intention, and I have a commitment to do the work on myself to continue to improve and operate with more and more integrity, applying lessons that I've learned, raising my vibration so I can be of service with the art I create, or just the way I move through the world, or in any other form or fashion. So I'm definitely setting the intention to continue the work. And yeah, I'm so grateful to have these conversations. I think by having this conversation just already raises the vibration for the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's been fun to see people pop up. I like this Instagram live thing. It's really,
I
really
do too.
cool.
We're going to master it. We're going to master it.
We are all masters of our own destiny.
So with that conclusion, Jen, I I love you so much. And when I think of you, I think of falling flowers in a bathtub.
Yay.
And it's such a beautiful image. So thank you for being the kind of person that when I think of you, I think of falling flowers in the bathtub.
Oh, thank you. I think of you as the bathtub. That I get to lay on and be like, thank you for holding me.
Well, I can't wait to do that post-corona, fire pit time.
I know. This was really
Experience.
Yeah.
In-person connection again. I love you.
I love you too. I'll call you now. I want to talk to you
a little
real
later.
quick.
I'll let you know how this goes.
I'm gonna call you on the phone just real quick.
On the cellular device.
Yeah.
All right.